Bänoo Zan is a poet, librettist, translator, teacher, editor, and poetry curator with more than 180 published poems and poetry-related pieces, as well as 3 books. Song of Phoenix, Life and Works of Sylvia Plath was reprinted in Iran in 2010. Songs of Exile, her first poetry collection, was released in 2016 in Canada by Guernica Editions. It was shortlisted for the Gerald Lampert Memorial Award by the League of Canadian Poets in 2017. Letters to My Father, her second poetry book, was published in 2017 by Piquant Press in Canada. She is the founder of Shab-e She'r Poetry Night, Toronto's most diverse poetry reading and open mic series, and was conceived back in 2012. It is a brave space that bridges the gap between communities of poets from different ethnicities, nationalities, religions or lack thereof, ages, genders, sexual orientations, disabilities, poetic styles, voices, and visions.
Post-colonial. The sky in your eyes is the tempestuous piece of militant empathy. The sky in your eyes is the earth I would soar in, with intellect spread-eagled above life, above all there is to meaning. My branches aspiring to blue, my roots to brown, my years to spring, your eyes to water. Your eyes the story of all elements, unelemental. My thirst desiring the blue wine of your eyes to quench all queries of wisdom. The sky in your eyes is an invitation to all is left of me in you. I'm the cloud in your eyes, the thunder and the rainbow. I'm the sunshine, absently present in the affectionate logical embrace, enlightening the narcissistic gloom of unconsumed thoughts. The undisguised secret of dialogues we will never have. None know love but those not in love with self or you, the reason for the unreason, the irrationality of the mind, and the logic of the heart. The sky of your eyes, the ocean of affection, the river of intellect, the spring of joy. The sky in your eyes, the mother tongue of the father, the alphabet of effacement, the pure poetry of power so subdued it passes for surrender. The sky of your eyes, the earth in my philosophy, the wings of my deconstruction, the spelling of my word. The sky in your eyes, so femininely masculine, it defies separations. My tree claiming you by roots and leaves. My tree claiming you before I remember, after I forget. My tree is water. Your sky is an ocean, so greenly blue, no one knows where colors end and reflections begin.
I was wondering if you could talk a bit about what you're doing, because it's quite a stunning impact, like a line like, I am the sunshine absently present, right? These beautiful, pairing up these two seemingly incongruous elements, but yet when they come together, they make, well, new meaning that is quite stunning. Would you mind talking briefly about what you're doing, because I do see that appearing a lot in this collection. What are you? What is it about that kind of aligning these two apparently opposites. What is it about that appeals to you?
Maybe it's a reflection of my personality, you know. I'm a borderline person. When I was in Iran, I studied English literature and taught English literature at universities. Mm-hmm. And now, this is all in the context of Iran, where Iranians are fiercely protective of our own language and culture. So the famous example is Ferdowsi, our epic poet, who spent 30 years of his life writing the epic in pure Persian just to preserve the language. And people argue that if it wasn't for that epic, probably we would also be Arabic speakers. Because after Islam was introduced to a lot of countries, a lot of countries actually changed their language, so like Egypt and other cultures. So, so in Iran, like even my own father, that I've written the second collection for, used to say, what is it that you're studying? You're studying the language of the foreigners, infidels, you know, atheists, or something like that, you know. And he was a devout Muslim. So he looked at me, like looking at me, that the way that, you know, what are you doing? What is it that is influencing you? And on the other hand, I had colleagues at university, again, the same thing. Like when we were talking, like colleagues in the Persian language department would say, have you noticed you're not actually speaking Persian? You're just using the Persian verbs. Everything else is English in your conversation. So going further back, when in Iran we start studying English in junior high school. So I have two sisters who are younger than me, and so we started using this English as a language, as a secret language that our parents wouldn't understand. So we used it as a way to just be freely talking about anything that we wanted. Yeah. So though in the context of Canada, it's nowadays we talk about the colonialism and colonial impact of language. And so language colonizing you, post-colonial, right? Yeah. So so it's very conflicted. And now, and when I came here, I started, of course, you know, all the poems in this collection have been written in Canada, with the exception of the first one. So, well, I was part of like many different groups, and, you know, I shared a lot of these things on open mics and workshopped a lot of them. And I remember somebody told me, you know, wouldn't it be better instead of using, you know, Greek myth, you would just stick to your own mythology? And I'm thinking, well, I've studied these. I know them better than my own myth, you know? And so, in fact, I cannot stick to one. And this, because, you know, I've been doing this for a very, very long time. Language brings with it its own value systems. It can open up, you know, windows, and it can also make you look suspicious in your own culture. So I'm always a borderline person. So I'm standing on the borderline of the two cultures and two literary traditions and two languages. So it is not a conscious decision. And
I love that notion of border. I mean, because when you line up two words that are supposed to be opposites, and there's supposed to be these kind of this night day, right? And to say and to combine such as absently present, right? And it's just that, and that's exactly my experience with reading a poem like that, is that it opens doors, it opens a window onto my own, the language that I grew up speaking. But I love the fact that you're talking about how English for you, it's you used it for your own means as a site of resistance. You know, it's just a familial resistance, but it's still a place where you're resisting. I mean, you know, kids get very creative, and they know how to, you know, create little secretive worlds. I created my own language, my own alphabet that had some kind of strange, like runes or syllabics, and was able to communicate secretly with my friends. So it's interesting that you're using English to do that, but yeah, I find that those moments of stark opposites just open up meaning, and so it exposes a language for what it is and what it isn't, or what it hasn't been, and creates new vistas.
Yeah, and specifically this poem, I call it love poem among cultures, because it's about, you know, I also work a lot with symbols, color symbolism and other symbols, and you know, for example, the color blue, like denotes spirituality, and the color brown, physicality and, you know, flesh. So, and when I arrived here, like talking about eyes, blue eyes that people have in this culture, and as a person who is in the margins of this culture, like as an immigrant from, you know, Middle East, so the associations that you see clearly, associations of more like a higher intellect to people of a certain race, and certain assumptions associated with other people, you know, just because of the way they look. And so like, and I went around and I saw these large patterns, and I thought, how does that work? You know, in fact, interestingly, I come from a culture that's, yes, people, dark eyes, and, you know, like, but our poetry is actually more spiritual and more, you know, traditionally, or even today, again, this is a gross simplification, you know, but you know, so I picked up these, like, you know, associations with the spirituality and physicality and higher order or lower order of things, and you know, it's interesting when you are a minority in a culture. I assume this will happen to anybody. It doesn't matter, you know, your race or your religion. If you are the minority, you see that people are stereotyping you. They don't even allow you to open your mouth, you know, they make assumptions.